Today in Cannabis News, a Washington, D.C. City Council considers a bill to reserve cannabis business license for companies owned by people with past drug crime convictions. Lack of involvement from the federal government regarding the Controlled Substances Act results in a non-conclusive decision by the New Jersey Supreme Court, and federal lawmakers in Mexico fail to reach a Supreme Court deadline for implementing national recreational cannabis legalization. It's Wednesday, May 5th, and this is your TRICHOMES Morning Buzz.
Broadcasting live from the TRICHOMES.com studios in Southern California. It's time for your Morning Buzz. We bring you late-breaking news that keeps you up to date with what's happening in the cannabis industry.
First up, the Washington, D.C. City Council is discussing measures that would designate certain new medical cannabis business licenses for individuals that have been convicted for drug crimes in the past. This is the most recent attempt by municipal politicians to improve equity in the growing market. The measure is being considered by Mayor Muriel E. who is reviewing a policy approved last month that would authorize individuals with criminal records for employment in medical dispensaries, production facilities, or laboratories. The council voted overwhelmingly in favor of the bill, which additionally allows individuals with criminal records to own and run medical cannabis companies if they have not been charged with any offenses within 3 years of submitting an application. As new licenses are issued, the proposed measure would instruct the Alcoholic Beverage Regulation Administration, which regulates the medicinal cannabis system, to set aside at minimum one cultivation facility license, one dispensary license, and one laboratory license for companies that are owned by individuals who have been convicted for drug offenses.
Next up, the New Jersey Law Journal reports that in a lawsuit entitled Hager vs. M&K Construction, the New Jersey State Supreme Court for the first time examined legal questions resulting from the Honig Compassionate Use Medical Cannabis Act. Hager was wounded while at work, and their physician recommended medicinal cannabis as a better pain reliever than opioids. M&K, the employer, refused to pay it, citing legal reasons involving the Workers' Compensation Act and Honig Act. Employment compensation benefits did not come under the Honig Act's clause precluding any private or government health insurance from covering costs for medical cannabis, according to a unanimous court decision. The court also found that cannabis was a reasonable and necessary medicinal therapy within the Workers' Compensation Act for intractable pain caused by Hager's injuries, and that the dangers were lower than those of opioids, based on medical testimony. M&K's last point was that the Honig Act was superseded by the Federal Controlled Substance Act, which classifies cannabis as a Schedule I controlled substance, which can't be recommended for medicinal purposes, and that covering Hager's cannabis prescription made M&K liable to federal penalty. The federal court found that Congress had revoked the implementation of the Controlled Substance Act to state medicinal cannabis systems as per riders of previous 7 yearly Department of Justice Appropriations Act, in that there was no discrepancy between federal and state statutes. The court also determined that M&K could not be held criminally responsible within federal statute because it was involuntarily covering employees' cannabis costs.
And last up, following months of waffling on a legislation measure that was approved in both houses of Congress, federal lawmakers in Mexico have failed to reach a deadline by the Supreme Court to lift cannabis prohibition. As a consequence, there is a great deal of confusion. In 2018, the court declared prohibition unconstitutional and ordered policymakers to amend the law. Although there has been improvement in the years following in terms of preparing and progressing policy, politicians have consistently sought and been issued deadline delays by the court. It appeared that the legislation would be completed this session. Last year, the Senate passed the legalization measure, which was then revised and approved by the Chamber of Deputies in March 2021, referring it back to the Senate. After that, a number of Senate committees undertook and approved the revised bill, but lawmakers soon signaled that some changes rendered the legislation untenable. For weeks, that was the state of affairs as the court's new April 30th, 2021 deadline neared. The Senate was expected to request an extension from the court once more, but this did not happen. Rather, legislators have started to discuss calling a special legislative session after the June 2021 elections to finally and officially legalize recreational cannabis nationwide.
That was today's Buzz. Thank you for listening. For more cannabis news and insights from industry professionals and a place to discuss those stories and others, visit trichomes.com.
And be sure to catch up with all of our other cannabis industry-related podcasts like Hash It Out, Careers in Cannabis, or the International Cannabis Conversation, wherever you get your podcast. For trichomes.com, I'm David Fortin.
And I'm Ashley Manning. Catch you next time.